So today, we're going to talk to you about surviving this crazy market. Woo!
All right. So what's going on in the market? Well, you're hearing a lot of myth. You're hearing a lot of fantasy. Because what you're not hearing is after the home goes with 16 offers in like 2.2 seconds, frequently it comes back on the market. But it is a very robust market. Thankfully, we had this type of market back in DC when I started in '03, so I'm very used to it. But what does it take? It takes a good strategy going in when you are a buyer to know your next moves, right? I've always said that real estate transactions are about playing chess, not checkers. So what's going on? There's not a lot of inventory. We have a lot of people who moved here last year. Some of them gainfully employed, some of them only getting checks via cash. But nonetheless, we have a large abundance of people. We have a very rare market where there's a compression on inventory for traditional sales as well as rentals. There's not enough places for people to live. But here's the big deal, that especially in the first-time homebuyer price points, people aren't able to move up. You know, we haven't had a great increase in salaries either. So the question becomes, if you sell your house, where do you go? That's why we have such a crunch on inventory, because people are like, well, where do I go? I can't move up. I mean, I don't have the salary to support it. And thank goodness lending hasn't gotten carried away. So lending is still pretty tight. It's not the games that it was back in '04 and '05, and thank goodness it's not. Homes are selling for more than asking. It is a fact. And sometimes people are able to come in cash. I don't know, you can tell me, Schmidt, but Diane, where do people get $450,000 cash?
Out of their checking accounts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But there are people, places they shouldn't, exactly. There are people doing some ridiculous things to get these houses. Sellers are not paying concessions. Don't even. Don't even think you're going to ask somebody to pay for some concessions. Matter of fact, if you're a buyer, you're going to be the one making a lot of concessions, right? But I will tell you this, that you make the decision and you make the moves for where you are right now. We don't know where we're going to be in 10 years. We don't know where we're going to be in 3 years. And if I had a magic crystal ball, right, I'd be the wealthiest real estate broker in the world.
Ditto.
But I don't. So, and they're really, really scrutinizing not only the lending, but a lot of sellers are not wanting contingent offers. And by contingent, I mean that you've got to sell your home in order to buy theirs. So that's another thing. We have a lot of people living in places like this, you know, for several months, just so that their offer isn't contingent, and you know, it makes an advantage for them, and it truly does. So there's some strategies here for sellers, for those of you who are looking to sell, and I hope there's a lot of you out there, and I hope you know a lot of sellers. And when you're looking at all these offers, right, you need to be selective. You need to select financing that's going to get you to the closing table. You also need to look at the buyer that's going to be a lot less fussy. Anybody who's ever written a contract with me for buying on real estate, I will tell you, you don't want to be the problem child. If I look at a contract and it's got A through Z on addenda in the additional provision section, you go to file 13 when I'm sitting there with my seller. You know, who wants to deal with that? You're telling people up front you're going to be a jerk. You want to make sure yourself.
Yeah. You locked in, man.
You also want to be very judicious about the financing that you're selecting, and making sure that the company that the buyer is with doesn't have a lot of loopholes and overlays and things like that that could delay your closing. And it's important to make sure, and if your realtor isn't doing this, you need a new one, that these people are pre-approved and that you have spoken to the lender about their qualifications and what documents that they have in order to vet those buyers, to prevent you from having to either put your house back on the market or not close on time. And speaking of a judicious, wonderful lender that calls when an offer is presented.
So it is extremely crazy out there for pre-approvals and buyers right now. Like, I know some of you in this room are in this situation right now, but it is very, very important that when you get the pre-approval that if you're shopping for a lender, there are multiple things that you should ask. And one of the things is I'm gonna actually post the questions because it is something that I'm telling you, if you don't have somebody that has all your best interests, giving you the education, calling on a follow-up offer. I call every time somebody puts in an offer, and I just say how unbelievably fabulous you are, so that we are giving everything we can. With that, when someone goes to get a pre-approval, they put in an application with me, right? I pull their credit, and it is something that I go through all their income and everything and verify it. Well, that information is only as good as the information put in the computer. So if you don't know your income, and let me tell you, 50% of my applications, they don't. And I mean that because they'll put in the amount that's on their paycheck. Well, we actually qualify before taxes, so I need the full deal, right? Or they just don't do math well, I don't know. So what I ask of all my pre-approvals now is I want documentation before I will give them a pre-approval. It is in their best interest. If I have the pay stubs, tax returns, W-2s, I can verify that information, write the pre-approval that I have verified all that information, and it makes Cynthia's job 1,000 times easier, and it makes your life as a buyer so much easier. Because when I call to follow up on that, I can say, they've done all their due diligence. We're ready to go. We need a contract. Everything else is good. So not a lot of lenders are doing that. And I don't get a lot of pushback on it, which I love, because my buyers know that I am doing it for their benefit. They don't want to put in 10 offers. Like, let's make it the best offer we possibly can to begin with, so you're not putting in 10 different ones. Some of that goes along with seller concessions. So you may not be able to ask for seller concessions, but you can actually get your closing costs paid for by the lender. Not really common, and not used to not be common at all. Now it is, because I can, unfortunately, it's you increase the rates and I give you money back. But depending on the situation, that could be the best solution for you. So there's creativity right now, not in a bad way, in a good way. The contingent thing. A lot of people that are having to sell a home to purchase another one. Does your current home have a lot of equity in it? Because I know somebody that can take care of that and help me get a line of credit to purchase the new one, and then you sell the old one. It allows you to write the offer non-contingent. Very, it's interesting. A lot of balls in the air, so to speak, to get it done, but it can be done if it's truly what you want to do. Just based on that and the documentation, it puts you in a different position to be able to put in those offers and just, like I said, be more at the top of the pile. I get the question a lot, do I have to put in more than 20 or 5% down? So a lot of loan programs now are based on first-time homebuyers, right? Like 3% down, 3.5% for FHA. Conventional has 3 and 5. They aren't always the best thing on paper, sadly. So a lot of those buyers are going out and they're trying to get a home with down payment assistance. It's an amazing thing that I can offer 12 different down payment assistance programs. You could go to closing with nothing as a first-time home buyer. Great. But how do we make that look really good to a seller? Well, you have everything ready to go so you can close as quickly as possible. Because here's the bottom line. Cynthia can get an offer that is down payment assistance, or let's just use 5% down, and she can get a 20% down. If the 5% down is with me as a lender and the 20% down is with Quicken Loans, guaranteed all day, take mine. Because I wouldn't trust Quicken Loans as far as I could throw them, sorry. But it's just, you need to have somebody that has more of, they've done the work. Can you call those people on the weekend and get their information? Can you text them? Are they gonna be there for you when you need to talk to them? I mean, my weekends, luckily, all of my agents know I ride my bike Saturday and Sunday mornings. You can text me and I'll be like, on my bike, get back to you. But at least I've acknowledged the fact that I need to do that when I get home. It's huge. There's so many people that can't get a hold of their lender. And granted, that's not what I want to be doing all the time, 24/7, but it's the market that we're in. And that's okay. You take it off some other time.
Feast your family.
Exactly. So we wanted to leave a couple minutes at the end for questions because it is a unique time. Anybody?
Yes,
I just have more of a comment. Our first and only home we bought was the first and only home we looked at, and we closed in 23 days. And it's because we met with Michele first and did all the pre-approval, and because Cynthia was smart enough to say, come before the open house.
I was dressed like Gomez Adams with that.
I was impressed.
That was a real estate history moment.
I think that the common denominator with both these ladies is it's not always just how amazingly prepared and all the research, everything's going to go perfect because I'm so thorough, but I also have someone I referred who is just a shit sandwich to begin with. and so it's also the integrity that they have for when problems do come up. Like, everybody makes mistakes or everybody has problems, but how fast these girls are and how thorough is, that's huge. I love your integrity.
So this morning on the news I was seeing something, and one of the guys said, well, the market's so bad, we thought about, when we put in an offer, we put in a letter with pictures, and we thought about selling wine. Yeah, does that make,
Kissing dogs.
yeah, does that make any difference at all? I mean, is that just hopeful, wishful
You know
thinking?
what? I will give you a good example. Priscilla, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
So real quick, I told Priscilla, and
Yep.
yeah, Kathy can attest to this. And that's what I was going to say. When you drafted an offer, it's not just always about the money. Okay, with HUD it is. But people want to know. People who have spent their time, their lives, made memories in this house, they want to be able to connect with you. So I spoke with Priscilla. I said, Priscilla, I need some pictures. And, you know, you don't have a kid, so borrow a dog. And so she did. She borrowed a dog. And for good measure, she threw in a picture of her kissing a dog. Yep. And they got 6 offers. The agent called me out of all 6 offers and said, now we had our complete package together, so they didn't have anything to guess. Michele called in advance. And the lady called me and said, you know what? Our sellers felt that your client is the best person to have this house.
Wow. Yeah.
I called Priscilla. I said, the kiss and the fish worked.
It's a mammal. It's a mammal.
It's a mammal.
Yes, the fish.
The key is that it's not always about the money. Sometimes it is about making a connection.
I can provide the dogs for those next pictures.
All right, thank you.
Time's up.
Time's up. You gotta go.
If you have other questions, though, please get together with us. We're happy to chat.